everybody, and welcome to you all from across the world, coming to you live from what has suddenly become a very sunny Netherlands. It's good to be with you all. My name is Liesl and I'm from the BBD Netherlands team. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the art of facilitation. Some of you may be wondering why, as BBDers, we're even talking about facilitation. You're not strategists or facilitators, you're techies and business analysts, and probably facilitation is something you think you'll never do, right? Wrong. All of us are having conversations every single day, whether they're short or they're long, and many of you are sitting with clients trying to get great ideas to be actionable insights, to build solutions. That in itself is facilitation, and that's why we're here today. I personally have been facilitating for many, many years. I began my love of this art back in the days of Y2K in London, when I was working at Credit Suisse as a business analyst. And since then, in my world of strategy, it's become one of my second languages, a core business tool, and I'm excited to share some of it with you all today. It is a lot. It's going to be like drinking out of a fire hydrant, so fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. So where do we start with facilitation? And like I said, in facilitation and conversation, it's you having this conversation with your clients. It's you running the team. It's you running the chat. So facilitation really starts with you. And it's a very special kind of art. It's kind of a mix between herding cats, reading between the lines, and trying to get random strangers just to trust you. And so there are some tips and tricks I've learned along the way, and that's what I'm here to share with you today. There are so many models, so many different tools, so we'll only get a very light taste, but hopefully this will be a good introduction. So let's start with what you are here to do as the facilitator or the leader of the conversation. Here's what you're not here to do. You're not here to be the boss. The boss may be in the room. Often they are in the room. But your role is really to facilitate the conversation. You are the conductor of this very particular orchestra. You may not be the boss, but it most definitely is your gig. You are in charge. You're also not here to have a strong view. That's very difficult for people like me that have a strong view on just about everything. When we're facilitating, it's really the room's view that we are trying to get out. It's the one time in our lives we're looking for groupthink, we're looking for the group view. You're also not there to solve the problem or be the psychologist. And you're definitely not there to be Melissa.
Hey, Melissa, the whales need your help.
I love whales! Go, Melissa! Let's forget those whales!
Hey, Melissa, now the trees need you. The ice caps are in trouble. Hey, Melissa, now the rhinos need saving.
Rhinos!
It's hard to be an eco-warrior, but it's easy to drive like one. Introducing the most fuel-efficient crossover.
Okay, don't be Melissa. You're not here to save the world. You're here to get ideas into actions. One thing we need to be aware of when we're facilitating or leading a conversation is this thing about books and covers. So have you ever wondered why we have a saying, don't judge a book by its cover? Because that's exactly what we do as humans every single day. And when you walk into a room expecting to lead a conversation, you need to be fully aware that your cover is being 100% judged. So it's very important that we concentrate on how we show up. Psychologists call it thin slicing. The 1 or less than 1 second that it takes us as people to decide all of this about someone else, less than 1 second. We decide, can we trust you? How important are you? How smart are you? Even do I want to be your friend? Can you lead? Knowing this might be a bit scary. Hell, I'm going to walk into a room and people are judging all of this in a couple of seconds. But knowing us allows us to do something about it. And when we're leading strategic or important conversations, even if it's a retro, even if it's a demo with your clients, we need to be aware that this is going on. So how do we kind of fake it till we make it? how do we create that personal impact that we need to when we walk into the room? And we can learn a lot from Shark Tank. Believe it or not, there are people that study Shark Tank, watch millions and millions of Shark Tank episodes to figure out how to be convincing. And I'm going to share some of what they've discovered through that. And why is Shark Tank a good example? Well, in Shark Tank, you get millions of dollars, right? So we know what works and what doesn't. The one thing we've learned from Shark Tank is that those that are more likely to win in the Shark Tank enter with intention. They believe they are important. They rock up feeling important. Their packaging shows professionalism. Now, I'm not saying dress like a 1950s housewife in your pinstripe skirt or whatever it is, or your suit and tie. You can dress with authenticity, but understand that how you show up, if you're not deciding how you're packaged, you're making a kind of a decision anyway. You're deciding that you don't care how you're packaged. And that comes through in your intention, it comes through in your feeling as you walk into the room. So professionalism and your grooming really does matter. And then don't fidget, just don't be fidgeting. And then acknowledge. Winners in Shark Tank were almost 90% the people that walked into the room and smiled. Now, I'm not talking like, hey, a big cheesy grin. No, smile and acknowledge a nod. Those that make eye contact with everyone in the room. Those that enter into a relationship just through their eyes. It's incredibly important. And don't be the note taker. We have a ridiculous collective bias against people who take notes. Somehow we think they're the least important person in the room. So if you're facilitating conversation, somebody else needs to be the one doing the right thing. Then our posture and our energy, the way we stand, is incredibly important. I do some training in public speaking and I make the people in the course walk around like a queen with a crown. The reason I do that is because your posture has such an impact on how people judge you, on the thin slicing. There's a wonderful book on this topic. It's called Leadership Embodiment. I'll show a picture at the end so you can take a snap. But she talks about how to use our energy. And I'll give you a little test to try in your next meeting. Sit in your next meeting and imagine a V-shaped funnel of energy coming out of your body. Breathe it in and see what happens. The results will astound you. Whether it's the posture that you display when you fill the room with your delicious Lieslness. Now, I'm not saying do this with your arms, please don't do that. But this is what you imagine. When you're filling the room, whether it's digitally or in yourself, with your energy, something happens to the impact it has on the room. There's so much we can learn from the energy that we exhibit, because after all, we are just energetic creatures as humans. Sit straight. Another trick, if you're in a conversation that becomes increasingly hostile, we can resort back just to simple body language, palms up, open posture, or instantly calm the room. And then articulation. When you're leading a conversation, first of all, have a voice. Make sure people hear you. Make sure people know that you are the one whose gig this is. And second of all, make sure the words you use are easy for those around to understand. Okay, so we know what to do about you. Now, how do we prepare for this big meeting or the big day? Preparation when it comes to difficult conversations or brainstorming or ideation is essential. And these are the sort of 5 go-tos I use. One is lobbying. Lobbying sounds so negative and political. It isn't. Lobbying is getting an understanding of what's going on. What's going on in this client? What do the different individuals believe? What are they thinking? Having those conversations is so incredibly important. I can remember in R&B, we wanted to build a cryptocurrency exchange, something that would allow the bank to trade cryptocurrencies. 5 years ago, you can imagine, was way before its time. We couldn't just go into a meeting, a strategy session with First Rand Board, say, hey, Alan Pullinger, let's have a brainstorming around how we start trading crypto. No. We had to be having conversations with everyone in that room for months before. First of all, teach them what even Bitcoin was, getting some of them to start trading in crypto, start playing with it, start to understand. Then by the time we got into the strategy session and started saying, should we build an exchange, everyone was on board, and we went ahead and built it. The regulator made sure we didn't launch it, but the team went on to lead and build Valor, which is now one of South Africa's top cryptocurrency exchanges using this technology that we built inside our lab, and is now one of the top payments interactive platforms growing in South Africa. Second of all, be prepared by preparing pre-reading. Meetings are not great times where you want to be ideating to show PowerPoints. The quickest way to reduce creativity is to die by watching a slideshow like we are today. I think we've all learned how long 45 minutes is through these sessions. Then decide on the format. Is it going to be hybrid, in-person, digital? What do you prefer? Which model you use, and I'll give you some options later on. And then understand who's in the room. Everything about your outcome will depend on who's in the room. One thing that's most important, in my opinion, is getting engagement before. There's this weird thing about us as humans that the more time we dedicate to something, the more we interact with it. Think about discovery. You spend an inordinate amount of time in South Africa focusing on your Discovery app and what you're doing for Discovery. Discovery is using your data and you're giving them your time. It means you engage more with them. It's the same when it comes to topics in the workplace. If we get people engaged in a topic, they're more likely to engage in the session if they've done engagement before. So whether it's on WhatsApp or a platform like Padlet or Trello, that engagement before is essential. I always like to ask, Kathy Chatty, the chattiest person in the team, to start getting engagement before and start having these conversations, to start being a disciple for what you want to get. Okay, so moving on to practicalities. What are some of these tools that we can use? And I said I've been doing this forever, so I have tried literally everything. Sticky walls, moving brown paper, colored notes, different digital platforms. And here's the kind of tools that I think work the best. I used to have this great big Cricut bag full of sticky paper that you could stick different colored things and arrows. Now my facilitation kit is these two delicious tools, a Sharpie pen and sticky note. The sticky note has everything you need to be able to ideate. It's easy to see. You can group colors by themes, what people like and don't like, things that should be go or no go. And the Sharpie pen, there's a reason I used a Sharpie. This thing is dark, it's black, and it's clear. Colored pens don't work. It's the Sharpie and the Post-it. But if you're going to use these fantastic in-person ideation tools, there's some things we need to know about how to use them. The reason that this particular combination works so well is because if we're using anonymous stickies or stickies to generate ideas, everybody gets a voice. It's anonymous. It's concise. You can't write a lot on a tiny little square of paper, and I like to stick it to one theme or 5 words, and you can group. The way we do this kind of facilitation is ask a question, get everyone to jot their ideas down. There's something about everyone jotting their ideas down that makes everyone else go, oh God, I have to also jot my ideas down. It means you get the participation you like in a session. But there's a couple of rules. 1 idea per card, try use capital letters, and add an image. Adding an image posts creativity, and it allows, once we start grouping themes, us to visually start to imagine the ideas that are coming out. 1 idea per card, because when you want to start grouping, you don't want to be tearing your sticky into, men love writing 5 things on 1 card, by the way. Sorry if you generalize, but 1 idea per card. So I have a quick video that shows how this all plays out in action, the ultimate way to use your stickies. Thanks, Rudolph.
All right, team. Thanks for coming for a brainstorm today. We have a really interesting topic. The local zoo, the visitors are down 20%. So how might we boost the number of visitors to the zoo? This is a serious problem for them. They want to stay open. They need more funding, all this kind of good stuff. So let's spend a few moments now first and get a few ideas down. Remember, we're going for quantity. Let's see how many ideas we can get. And also, there's so many good ideas out there. Let's push ourselves, try to get closer to the ridiculous. That might be brilliant. All right, so I'll start us off. I had a date night. So, and you might hang out with the animals that are in action, if you know what I mean. All right, what else? What else you got? Oh yeah, what do you got?
What if we do a dress up like your favorite animal day? So it's like a costume themed thing.
Very cool.
What about zoo pop-up at places that kids frequent, the mall, school, parks?
Home Depot I know has programs for little kids to build like, birdhouses and stuff like that. So it could be all these different crafts, but they're sort of animal lessons, so kids learn.
I have a night camping, so you get to camp overnight there. So let's get a 5 or 10 more.
So I figure loyalty cards work for airlines and for burritos, so why not have it work for the zoo?
Building out the whole celebrity thing, what if we pretend that animals are celebrities and we give out a gossip magazine as an advertisement?
So for an hour every day, they vacate the cages and you get to go swing on the bars and everything that the monkeys have. So, zoo turn playground.
That's awesome.
What we'll do next is we'll look at these and look for some themes and cluster a couple. And then I think we should even prototype 1 or 2 of these and then take them over to the zoo. It's going to be great. A lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Nice.
So we see the use of stickies and how they're using one idea per card with a bit of a diagram. Super fantastic way to do your ideation. If you decide to do your session online, there are so many tools now, especially since COVID, that one can use. I've put on this slide some of my favorites. Of course, you choose the type of video meeting you have. I personally prefer Zoom because it allows you to ideate and see each other's faces all at the same time. Venngage is my favorite tool for design. Whichever drive you use for file storage. Communication, I'm a WhatsApp fan. And my favorite digital online whiteboarding is Miro. Miro has just a ton of ideation ideas. You can use stickies, you can do dot voting. It's a super cool way of doing online ideation. So the big day has arrived. Meetings, no matter whether they sprint plannings or strategies, you can plan as much as you like, but on the day they're like a beast. They have a personality all of their own. So as much as we plan, it's also important to be flexible as we get into the meeting. The first thing is to be shockingly clear when you walk in. We are here today to do this and achieve that. You may have already set this out before in your pre-chats and your pre-reading. Say it again and again, because people don't remember. It is important to be shockingly clear on what the objective is of the session so that everyone feels satisfied by the end of it, they got what they hoped. Do not have a meeting that has an outcome like this. Rudolph.
Carol, schedule a staff meeting.
What's the topic?
I plan to fuse Six Sigma with lean methods to eliminate the gap between our strategy and our objectives.
I'll just say, waste of time.
We don't want to have a waste of time meeting. So getting into the meeting, it's important to set the ground rules. And I'm not talking about right to the toilet and left to the kitchen. If we're going to have good thinking coming out of a session, people need to be committed to it. I like right up ahead to say, how much cell phone time do you want? And let's be honest, we're not brain surgeons. No one's on a table bleeding to death. No one can have to be next to their phone for every 5 minutes. So make an agreement with everyone. What does that time look like before we need to check our devices? 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And then popping in and out. With the advent of digital, people feel like it's super cool to be able to just pop in and out. That is the worst thing for when we're thinking together. It disrupts the flow and it disrupts trust. Super important right ahead of time to get agreement from everyone. We will not pop out. I don't care if you pop into your meeting with you. No, just don't do it. Stay in the meeting. We've agreed. We are here together. Either pop out at the beginning or come back later. Popping in and out is not ideal. I always like to start sessions, especially when we're doing deep thinking, with checking in. There's 3 reasons that we want to check in the beginning of a session. First of all, it provides us with a start. Okay, we've stopped chit-chatting and we're now beginning the work. Second of all, it creates a safe space. Everyone is saying something. Everyone is being as vulnerable as each other. That act of saying something creates quite a lot of safety in the room. I like to check in by passing to the right. Each person says something, we go around the room, we've created a safe space amongst all of us. And third of all, it kind of breaks the seal. You've had to say something. So hopefully it'll encourage you to say more as we go through the rest of the day. I absolutely hate these kind of naff check-ins like, tell us something that you've never told us or something. No, don't do that. That's terrible. There's kind of 3 check-ins I think that work. One, like what's going down for you right now? I'm exhausted, or my kid kept me up all night. Just get all that noise out of their heads into the room. Or you can do something a little bit more formal like, what are you reading or watching right now? It's a super interesting way of understanding who's who in the room and getting to know your colleagues in a very safe way. So icebreakers, not a huge fan, but really good to check in. Then who might be in this room and how do we deal with them? We may have the boss in the room. It's important as facilitator of the conversation, however, not to let them be the boss on the day. I can remember one strat session, we're running a 3-day strategy on modernization of global markets. And the CEO stood up at the beginning of the session to do the intro. Everyone was super excited to be there. We're in this beautiful place out in the country. She stood up and for 20 minutes, she proceeded to lambaste the team about our dismal results for the year that just gone by. You can just imagine how creative the next 3 days were not. Everyone was totally deflated. So I like to give the boss some airtime at the end of the last day or at the end of the meeting. Maybe they can do a little intro or brief them on what they get to say, but they don't get to be the boss in the session. Then there's always this guy, the soloist. He's like, yeah, I know you're doing stickies, or I know you're doing an ideation. I really like that. No, you don't get to have soloists. It's really important right up front to get this guy in line. Make him in charge of a breakout or something. Bring him into the conversation. Of course, you always get her too. She's sitting kind of watching, observing, never says anything. This is where proactive, more active sessions really work. Again, my stickies. You can't observe if you're having to give an idea on a sticky. The opposite of her is the monopolizer, who does not stop talking ever. Every time there's a question, they're like, pick me, I've got something to say. With this person, it's really good, again, to use formal facilitation. And I think you're getting the sense of this. We can go into ideations and try and be informal. But if we want to get to an outcome, formal conversations or formal structures or models really are more appropriate, even if it is a retro, even if it is an architecture ideation. Then, of course, there's this guy. This is the paparazzi. He's on his phone. He's so busy. He's so important. He just totally disrupts the entire flow. Really important that this guy understands the process that you're going to go for, and where you do your initial check-in, look him in the eye and say, we do not pop out. We do not use our phones. We make these agreements. And then there's this guy, the know-it-all. He's the deep expert. He's the guy that knows a huge amount about something. But I like to say, don't allow the gynecologist to do brain surgery, right? He gets to be an expert. If he's an expert in cloud, when it's cloud time, he gets to talk. But when it's front-end time, he does not. We try to keep him quiet by focusing on the other guy in the room. Importantly, there will be bees. There will be ideas popping around in people's heads, and we need to make sure we get them in the room. So I guess you've got a sense now that what we're trying to do here in facilitation or meetings or ideation is keep everyone involved. So here are some models, some formal models to make it happen. We can, as I said, be free flow, but formal models allow us to get to the outcome we need much quicker. And there are so many choices. With the advent of design thinking, there are so many models that we can be using for ideation. Today, I'm just going to highlight my 2 favorites. My favorite for ideation is my bastardized version of a design thinking ideation. So if you don't know what design thinking is, we can have a long conversation another day. But design thinking is a way of getting to an outcome of product design based on deep empathy, understanding the needs, feelings, and emotions inside of your client to be able to design an optimal product for them. One element of design thinking is an ideation. We can learn so much from IDEO and others who have designed these processes for us. My bastardized version of a rapid ideation looks something like this. Spell out what is the big question. What is the problem statement? Then 6 to 10 minute rapid ideation like we saw in the video. Trying to get at least 30 ideas out of every person in 10 minutes. 1 idea per card. Crazier, the better. Ideas, ideas, ideas. People hate this. They get to 5 and then they run out. So it's to encourage teams to keep going until they get 30 ideas out. Then take some time to group these ideas into themes. Pick one as a team, top theme, and go again. We're going to do date night in the zoo. Let's ideate around what that could look like. Again, 30 ideas per person in 10 minutes out on the table. We then vote on what feels the best. Select one idea and do a paper prototype. I've done so many of these sessions and I'm always astounded at the solutions that we can derive within 2 hours. Doing this kind of rapid prototype forces creative thinking in a way that is so unusual for us as people to do together that the outcomes are delicious and amazing. A paper prototype is particularly important because as humans, we are really shitty at imagining. We just are really bad at it. If someone has an idea, we really can't figure out often what they're saying. A paper prototype is not, what is this Japanese art of paper folding, origami. It's not origami. It's drawing your ideas onto a page in a way that people can visualize what you're saying, illustrating what you're talking about. A paper prototype allows people to really get a sense, feel, deep empathy for the product that you're suggesting. So that's my favorite ideation tool for a quick ideation. If you are having to run a very deep strategy, a strategy that lasts a whole day, you're trying to remodernize an entire back office process at a client, you're trying to decide which type of cloud solution someone's going for, and it's a whole 4, 5, 6 hours. I like to use a strategy that was invented very modern times, 680 BC. No, it wasn't actually invented in 680 BC, but the concept comes from 680 BC, and it was brought back to life in the 50s in an essay about the types of organizations we have. And it still holds true today. We essentially have 2 kinds of organizations, teams, or themes that are in play every day. Some that are foxy, and some are like hedgehogs. Hedgehogs know one big thing. If you've read Good to Great, the entire book is dedicated to this one great thing, hedgehog strategy. Definitely read it if you like strategy. Foxes know many things. I feel like BBD is a bit of a foxy organization. So today I'm going to focus on the foxy way of doing strategy. And it's the conversation model that was designed by Clem Sunter. For those of you that have never met the incredible Mr. Clem Sunter, he was the chief strategist of Anglo-American. He's one of the only non-Chinese people to have been invited to do strategy with the Chinese Communist Party in Beijing. He was also the guy that predicted the falling of the Twin Towers. So in his book that he wrote with Chantal Ilbery, he predicted that there would be a massive terror attack on an American important building and that thousands of people would die. Shortly after that, we had 9/11, and he got a call from the FBI saying, Mr. Sunter, we need to have a conversation. How did you know? And he said, well, it was obvious. I just played the strategy. His strategy is a 10-step conversation model that divides the day or the session into 2 sections. The beginning section, where you define the game, and the end section, where you decide the actions. I've had the privilege of being with him in multiple of these. It's one of the best ways of doing strategy I've ever experienced, and one I love to practice. It kind of goes like this, and I'm giving you like 5 minutes into something that should take 5 hours. But we begin defining the game. What is the context? What's changed? If we had to do this now in COVID, everything has changed. Everything has changed around us. So whatever we're ideating, even if it's technology, so much will have changed inside those organizations. We need to understand that to get to the correct actions. Then what is the scope? What exactly are we talking about? And let's define that really clearly. Let's box it very neatly. Who are the players? Who can impact the outcome we're trying to achieve? Who's funding it? Who are the decision makers? Who are the people in the team? Who's the regulator? Who are these players? Then what are the rules of this particular game? Even in the smallest teams, they have the way we do things. We need to know what that is if we're going to get to the right outcome or the right solution for our clients. We then have to understand, what don't we know? What could change? Again, the world we're living in now, the list of this is immense. Importantly, all of these game definitions will bring us to the key business drivers for the team, the solution, the business, whatever it is. From that, you derive a game board. Clem derived a game board for the world, and through his game board, he figured out someone was going to bomb something big in America. For BBD, we derived a game board too. For the Netherlands, before all of y'all were here, our game board looked like this. We decided what were the two biggest drivers based on our session for BBD in Europe. We realized our two biggest drivers were, first of all, the demand for our services from our clients. If clients don't want what we do not have a business. The second was our ability to attract and retain great talent, a room full of all of you. Without those two things, we could do nothing. Then we had to figure out, where were we on this game board? Of course, you always want to be in the top right corner, the nice shiny space where everything's good, and you don't want to be in the foobar corner, which is bottom left. We were somewhere in the middle of this matrix, which meant all our actions, all our tactics had to be moving us in two directions: get more demand for our services and attract more talent. By doing a game board, coming to tactics or goals or actions is super easy. Where you know your drivers and you know where you're at, it's very easy to figure out the direction you're going and to design your actions or solutions in that very particular direction. We then start coming up with actions. We decide what the options are. The best way to get options is a bit of a breakout. I'm a bit of a breakout fan. Figure out which direction you want to go, get into breakouts, figure out what are the actions we need to do, make some decisions, vote on those, strategy done. In Clem's model, we end the game by deciding on the meaning of winning. This is also a very delicious way to end any kind of solutioning, ideation, or strategy session. You ask the question, if we got all this right, if we did all these things right, how would it feel? What would this place look like? What would we be doing? We asked this, of course, of BBD Europe 2 years ago. Our meaning of winning were some of these things. BBD Europe Beer Fest. What did that say about our team? No, what that person meant was we'd be coming together like we are doing right now today at Escape. We'd be coming together and celebrating just like South Africa did. That would be one of our meaning of winnings. Nobody would feel alone. We would be engaged. We would still be going into our fear. We would be proud. These were some of the things that we came up with the meaning of winning. But this for me is one of the best ways of checking out. And we should always wrap up a session with a checking out. So just as important it is to get everyone in the room, it's also important to finish. Finishing is essential. Outside of the work I do in BBD, I run a program for women founders. I have a huge passion for women in the workplace. And in one of these programs, we were checking out of a very particular session. And here's where it can go so wrong. We were doing a pass the right checkout, and it was going something like this. How did you find the session? Amazing, inspirational, exciting, can't wait to go further. And then I broke my own cardinal rule. If someone doesn't want to talk, I generally don't let them. But we were digital, and I thought, well, I'm just going to break my own cardinal rule. And I was like, hey, you didn't say anything. And everyone's still rah-rah. And she was like, okay, my one word is disappointed. I was like, how to kill a session. But how important that was, because if we don't get those bees out of people's heads, I wouldn't have known what was bugging her. And she would have gone through the whole rest of our program, and I wouldn't have known she had this huge issue. Her saying disappointed allowed me then to have a separate conversation with her, figure out what her issue was. It was something really minor, actually, and we could resolve it, and she didn't bring it into the rest of our sessions. But checking out allows that. It gives people closure and also allows them to sort of tell you what's frustrating them, what's bothering them, so that it's out in the room. So in summary, the art of facilitation starts with you. Be prepared, know who's in the room, choose your model, and remember that the practicalities matter. Some of the reading material I've spoken about today is Clem and Chantal's book, Mind of a Fox, compulsory reading for anyone that wants to run facilitation of any kind. He's also got a fabulous website. He's got 4 books. I would recommend this particular one. Leadership embodiment for everything about energy. How to use your energy, use your posture, the impact of energy on others. Good to Great, this is Hedgehog strategy now, the opposite of Clem. Jim Collins, it's a really old book, but the model that he uses, his matrix for doing strategy, it's a PMS matrix. It's excellent reading. And then if you like strategy of any kind, Adam Grant is compulsory reading. This is a book that changed my life. I would highly recommend it to anyone. So thank you to all of you for spending the last 40 minutes with me. I hope it's been fun, not too much like drinking out of a fire hydrant, and I'm open for questions.